Hello, everyone. Guess who's back? It's me, Yannis Pappas, with the niche Yannis Pappas Hour for you people who will be discovering this. Oh, I got an alert. What's going on? Yannis Pappas just released another Yannis Pappas Hour. What an inventive title for a podcast. Yeah, it's not straight breast milk, baby. It's the Yannis Pappas Hour. It could be a serious show. Welcome to the Yannis Pappas Hour. Today we're going to be talking about Iran, hosted by George Stephanopoulos. The Yannis Pappas Hour could be hosted by George Stephanopoulos. Very recognizable Greek names. The thing about Greek names is you have to give them credit for being recognizable, for raising the alarm for certain ethnocentric, xenophobic groups immediately until they see you and they go, you're fair-skinned. But sometimes we're not, right? Because that's how civilizations work. Who got in there? Who got in there? Right? The Turks, but Turkic were Central Asian. They're a little whitish, so who got in there? Indians, who gets in there? Why does my cousin Vasily look like a Hispanic? I don't know. But people been moving around and shuffling around like ain't nobody's business. And this whole moral thing, first of all, pretty much a Greek concept, right? Philosophy, pretty much a Greek concept. Ooh, we're going to have a sense of humor about ourselves. Pretty much a Greek concept. What is Greek concepts? Here's the thing. Greek concepts, Hellenicism, ain't really a nation. For a millennia, it meant you were civilized. It was more civilizational. It was like, are you Greek? You know? Meaning like, are you not an animal? Are you not animale? Barbarian, what does that mean? It means not Greek originally. It means not Greek. But what they were really saying is wink, wink. You know? Wink, wink. An animale. Right? It's sort of like when you hear when you hear a Greek now call a black person mavri. It just means black, the word. But when a Greek says mavri, the sentence around it is usually not good. The same way barbarian just meant not Greek, but the sentence around barbarian shows you that the word not Greek is usually not good. Because Greek concepts was civilizational. The same thing with Persians. They've been around for a long time. Greeks and Persians been around. The Greeks and Persians, former rivals, Celtics and Lakers. You know, we're Americans, so you know it from the 300 movie. But both Greece and Persia are very similar because what they've done throughout history has been being conquered by many different barbarians, many different mavri. I kid. It only means black. It's the color black, like negro in Spanish, just black. Been conquered by many different aggressive forces that aren't so civilized in a lot of ways, repeatedly conquered after their glory years. And what ends up happening is culturally, Persia and Greece conquers the conquerors. The old expression, right? Rome conquered Greece, but Greece conquered Rome. What does that mean? It means Rome conquered Greece, but culturally, the Roman elites spoke Greek. They adopted all the Greek knowledge, the gods. Culturally, Rome was Greek. To be Roman meant you were culturally Greek. You know, Alexander the Great went in there. He Hellenicized. People go, Alexander the Great was Greek, and then Macedonians, you know, these like people who live in Macedonia, where he was from, say he was Macedonian. They're both right. He was from the area of Macedonia, but he was a Greek. Because Greek meant it wasn't confined or circumscribed by borders. It just meant you weren't animale. You weren't animale. A lot of people don't know this. Like, they don't know the Persians are not Arabs. A lot of people don't know these things because we grew up in America and the human brain just likes to, especially in America, we like to just make sense of a very complicated word with very simple symbols and archetypes, right? By going, over there is a sandstorm. And I get it because it is kind of one big sandstorm over there. But they are different people. It's crazy. Assyrians, what happened to them? The Kurds, what are they doing? I saw them protesting in Calgary. I was going, why are you protesting in Calgary? They were protesting in Calgary. Did you know that? So we drove by and first of all, I saw some swarthy lookers. So my first instinct is always, maybe some Peruvian kids are, they haven't got their wood or their maple syrup that they're promised, eh? And maybe they're protesting the Canadian government in Calgary, government of that province, Calgary. So that's what I first thought. Must be some, and I was about to call them Mexicans. See, even I'm doing it. I was about to go, those Peruvian, they're Peruvian, but those Mexicans over there are protesting. The same thing we do with the Iranians. We go, those Muslims over there, those Arabs, it's all, but when you get into it, like when you put a ramen noodle under a microscope, you see there's a lot of different living things in there and you shouldn't eat it. So they were protesting in Calgary, which I thought was funny because they're protesting against Turkey, right? The Kurds hate Turks because the Turks were threatened by Kurd. The Kurds want to carve out their own state, and Turkey goes, get out of here, and Turkey bans their language, slaughters them a little bit, just trims off the top, Not everyone's slaughtered. Ruling countries like to just trim off a little they go in and give you a little haircut. I think the Israelis, actually, that's what they call it. It's a little haircut. And I didn't even think of that when I was saying that, but it's a little haircut. They trim down the Kurds a little bit, but they were protesting against Turkey in Calgary, which shows you just like when emotions run wild, reason takes a backdoor. The nervous system, what it likes to do is shut down your neocortex when it gets emotional. And we know that from interacting with ladies. And in my mind, I was going, what are they doing? They're in Calgary. What do you want the Canadians to do about it? The Canadians can't do anything about it, even if they wanted to. They'd have to ask us. And right now, it's like, they're in a toxic relationship with us. Canada is a woman who was raised by an abusive father who is attracted to a man who is abusive, us. But she can't get away, okay? Right? Because if we started storming the Canadian border, how's Canada going to protect itself against us? I'll tell you how. They'll call us and say, can you protect us from you? You ever think about that? We defend them. What are they going to have? 4 Mounties roll up on mooses and say, stop, eh? It ain't going to happen. A couple guys with hockey masks and sticks going, you want to fucking go, bud? You want to drop the fucking mitts and go, bud? You can use a couple of Mounties to maybe exterminate the Blackfoot Indians, but you can't stop the American war machine. If we decide we want to make you the 51st state, guess what, baby? You're the 51st state. We're going to beat you about the arms and make you wear a sweater in summer. So it's a complicated world. But back to the original point, the Kurds, the Assyrians, Armenians is another one. I like to call these miscellaneous whites or white question marks. They're white question marks. Turks, white question mark. A lot of Turks, they're from Central Asia, the Caucasus Mountains or whatever. They look white. A lot of them, especially the ruling classes over that time, or they looked Asiatic or something. We're trying to fit all this into the American definitions of race. Are you white or are you not? Right? Or whatever. So much has been mixed in the stew over times. Conquests, cultural convergence, the mushing together of cultures because of conquest. Sometimes just friendly neighbors, so as they call it in Calgary, TP rating, where a descendant of some Brit or whatever will go bang out an Indian, and then the kid becomes half Indian. So if he marries a white, then the kids lose their reservation privileges. Did you know that? So yeah, I mean, the Indians, unfortunately, the Blackfoot Indians up there, they're in Montana. They got a reservation that kind of maybe crosses the border, They threw them over there. They said, you go over there. We got oil over here in Calgary. You go over there. There's corn over there. You can play with the corn all you want. We'll give you 3 buffalo. But the oil's over here. And supposedly their numbers are really dwindling because of a lot of teepee raiders. A lot of white guys going in there and getting themselves an Indian wife. I met a few when I was up there in Calgary. You see a lot more natives in Canada. The booze must not be as strong. Like everything. Everything's a little more pure in Canada. Food, higher regulated. They may not have that 90 proof. They may not have that Mad Dog 2020 that the natives really love in the United. So you see a lot more. Often, unfortunately, you see them on the street. A lot of them are drunk. They don't have the enzyme for alcohol. It's a bad thing because they're Chinese originally, right? So they were originally Asiatic. Supposedly they walked over to Bering Strait and then they started becoming tanner. They didn't get taller. I'm not sure if the penises grew. Don't know. But the phenotype changed a little bit, although you can kind of see in Mexicans, which is all South America, all Mexicans, you can kind of see the Asiatic look. They share DNA, S-L-O-K-S. So just leave me alone. Everybody, leave me alone. I'm doing an episode because we got ads. So what I want to focus on is that area changed a lot, right? Then Alexander the Great conquered it for a while, and then it was ruled, much like Egypt was ruled by Greeks, right? Cleopatra was a Greek ruling Sandies. We call them Sandies, means, Northern African Arab. I mean, the Arabs come from the Arabian Peninsula. Are you telling me that there's no North African there? I mean, ship routes, trade, things just moved around a little bit. But Alexander the Great had it for a little while, and it became very Hellenic. The thing that I want to focus on is the culture, the parallels between the cultures of Persia and Greece, and how, like I said, two resilient people who constantly get conquered, but conquer their conquerors and eventually knock off the yoke against all odds. The Greeks famously and lastly did it to their Turkish overlords. And I'd like to take a sip of tea for that. And guess what? Burned a few mosques. Go figure. I see a lot of action on X going, it's got to be the Mossad because Muslims would never burn mosques. And that's what you think. If you're an American sitting at your X account, are they called tweets or excretions at this point? At your X account, making excretions from Seattle or Denver, or if you're sitting in Amsterdam or wherever your parents moved you so you can tweet in English, you could be, I don't know, Sunni, Shia, Sufi, whatever the hell you are, living in England. That's what you'd think, especially if you hate Israel. You really, really want that to be the Mossad, right? Because it's all archetypes now. Who's the hero? Who's the villain? It's all simple. Where's your Sandras? Where are your Mexicans? It's all very simple. You really want it to be the Mossad. And it may be. I doubt it. I don't know if you thought about that too much. I don't think they're, getting in there to do arson. I don't think that's the first thing. Like, all right, we've got to burn them out. I don't think that is like the number one priority if they're in there. They're in there. The Americans are in there somewhere. The Mossad is in there somewhere. Both countries no like Iran. But a lot of other countries also don't like Iran. Right? Not just Israel and the United States. Now, Israel obviously has the most to gain immediately because it's a contiguous country with Iran, next door neighbors. And they put up a lot of arborvitaes. They live next door and they put up a lot of arborvitaes trees just to block out so they don't have to see their neighbor. They've had disputes. They're not really fond of each other. So what you do is you get a bunch of arborvitaes, and arborvitaes are year-round Christmas trees, basically. You don't live in the country, so you don't know what I'm talking about. You don't even know what an oil bill is. You don't know what a fireplace looks like. But this is country stuff now. You put the arborvitaes up, and it gives you a little privacy because they're year-round plants, and also deers don't eat them. This is shit I know now. So let's just say Israel and Iran have thrown up some arborvitaes, but the problem with arborvitaes is it takes a while for them to grow and get big and block out your neighbor. So right now, I'd say they got the arborvitaes a couple of years ago, and they can still see over, especially with drones. But Iran is not homogeneous. That's the thing. You got some stuff in there, just like Israel is not homogeneous, right? People want to believe that the Jews over there look like the Jews with rashes under their beards in Brooklyn. There's a few of those, but that's not the majority. You got your Ashkenazis, yes. You got the right to return, so a lot of Ashkenazis, a lot of Russian Jews, they've all come back. Some of them have come back, yes. And people go, what other country has like a right to return? Greece. I remember I told that to one person. They were like, what? I was like, yeah. If my mother was born there, then I can get a passport. It's just how it is. A lot of countries have that. And you got your 2 million Arabs, and you got your Sephardic Jews. You got, your Iranian-looking Jews, right? Those are the Jews you see in Beverly Hills, who you could easily, mistake for a Muzzy. So it gets complicated in the weeds, is what I'm saying. It gets complicated in the weeds. But Persia, much like Greece, was a powerhouse of a civilization, not just the borders of Iran. So let's go back. Let's go back. This is the beginning of humanity, right? In that area. The Iranian plateau, 10,000 plus years ago. You see, we've dug up pottery, signs of agriculture. And the first civilization there was called Elam, and the capital was Susa. And this is one of the earliest literate civilizations. They had a distinct language, culture, and they were eventually absorbed by rising Iranian people from the peninsula, the Iranian peninsula. Then you had your Indo-European tribes that migrated there, and they split into Indians, Booty Boos, not House, the original Booty Boos, and the Iranians. So the Indians walked south and did Booty Boo, and the Iranians stayed put on the Iranian peninsula. And they introduced a warrior aristocracy, horse culture, and we get the beginnings of the oldest and first monotheistic religion. Can you believe that? They were the first. Zoroastrianism, which hasn't been completely wiped out, but for the most part, it was once the state religion of this great civilization. What happened? We okay? And I'll give this to the Muzzies. They're very convincing. They know how to stamp shit out because it was there and then it's mostly gone. So then we get to like the 700 BCs, and there was some Assyrians that were dominating, and they got overthrown by Medes. And then you had the Median Empire. These are all different types of peeps. Then you had the Achaemenid Persian Empire. So that's where the greatness really starts, under a guy named Cyrus the Great, right? Cyrus the Great introduced human rights, like one of the first guys in the quote-unquote East. Because back then it became two rivals, right? It was Greece and Persia, and then Rome and Persia. And those were the two. It was a bipolar, two superpowers, you know, Russia, United States, China, United States. Back then it was Persia, Greece, Persia, Rome. Guys, let's talk about hymns for a second. Look, nothing to be ashamed of. ED's out there, erectile dysfunction, okay? Hymns can help. It can help you with performance in bed. Take control of ED with personalized treatments made with doctor-trusted ingredients prescribed by licensed providers 100% online. ED doesn't mean your life is over. It doesn't mean you got to stop loving. It means it's just getting started. We all need sometimes a little booster seat, Jess. We need training wheels with personalized treatment options to help you take control. And spontaneously, thanks to Daily Meds. ED is more common than you think and simpler to treat than ever. Through HIMS, you can connect online with a licensed provider to access personalized treatment options discreetly and on your terms. That's the best. If prescribed, they offer access to ED treatments ranging from personalized products to trusted generics that cost 95% less than brand names if prescribed. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like you. Don't go out of your way, okay? This isn't a one-size-fits-all. It's your health and your goals, and they come first with real medical providers making sure you get what you need to get the results you want. Right now, let's just plainly say you go right now to get simple online access to personalized, affordable care for ED, hair loss, weight loss, and more. Visit hims.com/Yannis. That's hims.com/Yannis for your free online visit. Free online visit. Just take a peek. hims.com/Yannis. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for details, restrictions, and important safety information. Actual price will depend on product and subscription plan. I got a Lucy in right now. I love Lucy. I love Apple. I love espresso. I love my espresso in the morning, and sometimes I'll switch to the Apple later. You know what I mean? I like it in the morning. Have my coffee with my coffee. Lucy, 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco free. Lucy breakers, break it, you get a little extra flavor in there. Pure nicotine pouches with a little extra flavor surprise. Each pouch holds a capsule that can be broken open to release extra flavor and hydration. What I love Lucy for is it's just easy to set up a subscription and it comes to your house. So for me personally, so when I'm jonesing, I know what I use and it's always there. Yeah, I don't got to run to the gas station at 3 a.m. because I'm bugging out. So you go there, you get yourself a subscription. It's very easy. I'm an 8 mg guy, but they got 4. You don't have to do. It's just I like a nice punch. So they got different strengths, different. So go right now. Check this out. Lucy's the only patch that gives you long-lasting flavor whenever you need it. They are delicious. Get 20% off your first order. Nice. When you buy online with the code Yannis. And if you don't want to wait, just head to lucy.co/stores to find Lucy near you and grab it today. They're all over the place. Okay? And here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. So now we're getting to laying the groundworks for Persia, which is what they like to call themselves, right? And I used to meet them, and they would say, well, you meet them in the States, and they go, I'm Persian. And to an American's ears, you're going, where's Persia? And they go, well, it's Iran. So you go, you're Iranian. And they always kept this like Persian pride, right? Very prideful, like the Greeks. These are the parallels I'm drawing, right? The Greeks, right? They act just like the Greeks, going, no, we're Persian, from the great Persian Empire. So Cyrus the Great, like I said, one of the earliest to start recognizing human rights. He starts a big empire, and it becomes the largest empire that the world had ever seen at that point. They're the top dog. They are the top dog. And you got your famous rulers. We know them from movies. Some of them that weren't really realistically portrayed. I think one of the, was it Darius or Xerxes? It was Xerxes, right? And the 300, and he was like a giant, and he had this thing, and he was bald, and he looked Dominican or whatever, or an Arab, or I don't know. A little more sun in that region, but he was a giant. And so you got Cyrus the Great, Darius, Xerxes. These are Persian rulers. And this is where the conflict between the Greece and Persia was at its height, the Greco-Persian Wars, the Marathon story, Thermopylae, and you got East and West giants. Then a little Macedonian, who, like I said, was Greek because culturally they were Greek, but the Greeks looked at them. It's like they were American, right? It would be like we got conquered by, I don't know, a group in America that lived a state, right? And we looked down at them, but then they were like tough, but also had Greek culture at the top, and then they conquered us, right? They conquered the rest of America, just like Philip, Alexander's pops, did to Greece. The only time Greece was kind of unified, when they conquered it for like 10 seconds. But Alexander the Great comes in and he whoops that Persian ass. He whoops that Persian ass, the fucking Floyd Mayweather of generals, undefeated, never lost a battle. Fucking bisexual hero, just liked holes. Didn't matter what it was attached to. We're trying something different tonight, and he was all game. He conquers the whole fucking thing. And that begins, after he dies, of course, his generals, that begins the Greek rule over Iran, and those two great cultures fuse. And you get cities like Seleucia. I don't know how to pronounce these things. You correct me if you're Persian. Seleucia? Sounds like a Spanish girl's name. And Greek elites run it, much like in Egypt, right? During that era, Cleopatra, the Ptolemies, the Ptolemy dynasty, much like that. They rule it, but not for long. That's from 330 BC, before Christ. So that's why nobody was saved yet. To 247 BC, and then you get the Parthian Empire, which is the Persian culture pushing back. Much like the Greeks, you can't stamp it out. So you have an Iranian revival, and they push back. And then we get to the Sasanian Empire. Now, this is where it all changes. This is the last Persian empire. Zoroastrianism during this empire, and it lasts for a while, 224 to 651 CE. Zoroastrianism becomes the state religion. We start to get a national identity there. Advanced laws, architecture, medicine. They're flourishing, right? Their rival, Rome. It's a two superpower world now. Rome and Persia, Iran, the Sasanian Empire. And then they're constantly fighting with Rome, the Byzantium Rome. And because of that, they're on all fronts. And a wild bunch of folks from the Iranian Peninsula, inspired by, peace be his name. How's the expression go? Holy be his name. What is it? You know what I'm talking about. The Mo God. Come and conquest. And they fall, and the Persian Empire is over, Johnny. But Persian culture is so great, so advanced, much like the Greek culture. The Arabs take it over. They start hitting you with that Giza, some forced conversions, which is kind of lost in history. It's kind of like, how did this all happen so fast? Like, how did the whole thing get stamped out? I'm not sure how nicely they asked, but next thing you know, Zoroastrianism is all but gone. Everyone's muzzy, and that's what happens. Islam spreads, the Persian political class falls, and you ruled, much like the Greeks ruled Egypt, and the Greeks ruled Persia for a quick second, I don't know, 20 years, whatever the hell it was. It's Persian people ruled by Arab litas. And Persia adopts Islam, but Islam becomes very Persianized there. The culture is so strong, just like what the Greeks did to the Romans, the Persians are doing to the Arabs. And a lot of people don't know this. This is the thing that's very interesting when you get into the weeds, is the Islamic Golden Age, where they come up with algebra and math and science and all this stuff. Persian dominated. These are Persian, culturally, ethnically, whatever you want to call it, they're Persian. Dominated by Persians. And they were Islamified. So they were under the control of Islam, but Persians are the ones that, much like Greek philosophy and math and science carried Rome, Persia carries the Islamic empire in the region. Most of those guys are Persian. And they contributed medicine science. Guys like Al-Farabi, Al-Biruni, Avicenna, Ibn Sina. Persian guys. Then you get a little Persian revival after that for a second, 500 years, but under Turkish rulers, still Muslim. Persian culture with the Seljuk Turks. The Turks get in there, and they're coming from my country as well. And my people. But pre-Islamic Iranian identity is preserved. Then we get the Safavid Empire for 200 years. And that is when Shia Islam becomes the state religion. Different from the Sunnis, everybody else. So they've always been a little different. They've always been just a little different. They've always been asserting themselves as different. They become different from all the Sunnis surrounding them. They're surrounded by Sunnis. And they go to war a lot with other Muslims, right? There's civil wars that always happen in all these countries. When the civil wars happen, guess what happens? Muslims don't burn mosques. That is absolutely correct, except for the Muslims that burned other Muslims' mosques during civil wars. And there have been countless examples of that. It's not, Protestant Catholics, baby. It's not all unified. And the Iranians get dominated a little bit by the British and Russians for a little while, lose some territory, get their get exploited a little bit. And then they have a constitutional revolution, and we get to the pertinent immediate history, which is the Shah, he really looks like my mother's friend Polizos from the island of Crete. I mean, these people are all just down there. They're just down there. They're all mixed around. I mean, the dude looked exactly like my mother's friend Polizos, the Shah. And the Shah does what he does. He wants to align with the West. We see infrastructure growth, secularization, chicks are hot, and forced modernization. They're trying to come into the West, you know? Like St. Petersburg, baby. Like what Ukraine wants to do now. They're trying. They want to be us. They say, we're going to align with you. And there he is, Polizos. And he comes in, and the problem is he's a little authoritarian. Now, he suppresses the religious leaders a lot, the muzzies. And, of course, we get inequality, and that's always a recipe for bad. And then, of course, we get the CIA, the infamous CIA-backed coup in 1953 against I think the Shah installed this prime minister, right? Mossadegh? I think the Shah installed him. And then the students hate the Shah, and the students are full of piss and vinegar, and they elect their Zoran Mamdani of the day. Right? They want a revolution. So a lot of the students supported the overthrow of the Shah. Am I right about that?
I'm looking up Operation Ajax. This is
the British were in there too.
Yeah.
The British M16 was in there too. Because he nationalized Iran's oil industry, and we don't like that. And because that was previously controlled by the British-owned Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, now BP. And so Britain retaliated with an oil embargo and eventually sought U.S. help for regime change. But was he installed by the Shah, or am I completely wrong? Was Mossadegh?
This guy.
Yeah, was he installed by the Shah? I hope so. Otherwise, I'm just stupid. This is a complicated. I'm trying to give a quick and dirty here. Maybe he was. But then we grew up. It was the Iran-Iraq War. Sunni Shiite Muslims fighting it out. He was not. I was wrong. He was elected prime minister by Iran's parliament in 1951, championing oil national. Okay, so I was wrong. He was a little bit more of a commie, according to us, right? So that's right. He comes in, and then, then we got sanctions on him. We overthrow. It gets messy over there. And the next thing you know, we get the revolution. Ayatollah Khomeini. And he clamps it all down. At first, the students are really big fans, and then they go, whoops, what did we do? Because things change. Becomes very anti-Western, anti-imperialist ideology. Everything's nationalized, but religion, baby, becomes strong. Strong, and you can't do nothing. You can't do nothing anymore, and you got to cover up. And, we support Iraq at that time. Then we ended up hurting Iraq, but we were supporting them then because we hated Iran. We hated, is he called the supreme leader? Something like any supreme leader. You got problems when you get call somebody supreme leader. Supreme leader, supreme, the word supreme. You got a problem when the word supreme's in there. But we get to today, right? Very religious, Shiite Muslim. They speak Farsi, the Persian language or whatever. And And can you make sure of that? I'm pretty sure they speak Farsi. And Persian, they speak Persian. Wait, just hit the arrow. Yeah, okay. Persian is synonymous with Farsi, so I was correct. Over half the population, spoken by over half the population, used in government, media, and education through various minority languages, Kurdish. It's a mess over there. Arabic, Azeri, but Persian is the national and official language. I am correct, sir. So there you go. Evidence of the Persian culture dominating Iran, mixed with, I think the Mongols got in there for a second too and conquered as well. I left that out. They conquered everybody. So the Mongols were in there too, but the Persian culture persisted and it is still dominant today. And a lot of people don't know that, but there's a Muslim veneer over it. But the religion of Islam comes from the Arabian Peninsula, and it came from the conquerors that came and conquered the land. And were quite convincing, as they were in many other places, right? The Pakistanis weren't originally Muslim. How about the Chinese Muslims? They weren't originally Muslims. The Uyghurs or the Malaysians or whatever, are they Muslim? Yeah, I mean, it just spread. It spread. And they just asked. They went over and they said, hey, what do you guys think about this? I know you're conditioned to have your own religion and whatever, but here's this. And everyone just chose immediately. There was no extortion tax or threat of violence, nothing. There was no, you can't beat them, join them energy at all. It was all willful conversion. So we have a deeply Shia Persian mix going on. But underneath, the youth, again, they look over and they see the Corey Haim movie. And they say, I too want palm trees and a sedan. I too want to hear what Gwyneth Paltrow's up to. And basically, I think the chicks over there, you got to give them credit, dude. Yeah, it's getting ugly there. The chicks over there have just felt way too hot to be wrapped up. And I think they want to flaunt it a little bit because they are smoke shows. Whatever mix of all these people we've talked about, the conquests and cultures of that region has made for a smoke show of a lady. But unfortunately, they got to be wrapped up. And these chicks don't want to be wrapped up. So we are at the point where they're trying to shake off the yoke. You're hearing things like, we're Persian, we're not Arab. Some people, Zoroastrianism, our culture. Zoroastrianism is just like, I don't know, is there 5 people who follow that anymore? It's like kind of been stamped out. Very, very small minority. And they know that all their conquerors have adopted their culture, so they're very proud about their culture. They view it as very civilized. They view it as dominant, which it is. They view it as superior, which you can't argue, right? In a lot of ways. So, much like the Roman elites became Greeks, the Arab elites became Persian in Iran. So culturally, they've always won. And they're trying to shake off the yoke. Much like the Greeks shook off the yoke of their Turkish Muslim rulers, seems like the Persians are trying to shake off their yoke. But everyone's got different opinions on it, and it's very messy. I don't know personally what to support because Mark Ruffalo hasn't made an official statement on it yet. And this one's a little inconvenient. This one's a little confusing for people because technically they want to shake off the Muslim rule. So if you speak up about that, you may come off as Islamophobic. So that's scary. So I implore the Iranian people, can you stop, please? Because you're making a lot of Western people with platforms uncomfortable because they are scared to be Islamophobic. Did you think about them? The Iranian people, when you did this, did you think about Mark Ruffalo and his need to be consistent? And this is very confusing coming on the heels of the Gaza-Israeli situation. It's very confusing for everybody, right? Because you're supporting Muslims there, because they're the weaker of the two. And now you got to support against the Muslims because the Muslims are the stronger of the two in Iran. And you just don't, your brain is fucking breaking. And I understand and I have sympathy for you because it is a confusing situation when you find out that these people are not a monolith. It's very inconvenient. When you find out that the Muslims always infight with each other, it's very convenient. It's very inconvenient. These things are inconvenient. When you find out that Kuwait kicked out 500,000 Palestinians because they aligned with Saddam Hussein and just kicked them out, made them homeless. Probably killed a few. It's inconvenient. That sucks. When you find out Egypt fucking locks the border down and you can't get in there, that sucks. It sucks. Those are their Muslim brothers. And Egypt even says, they go, shame, shame, shame Israel, but then they lock the fucking thing. They won't even let refugees in. That sucks. It sucks because there only can be one bad guy. I'm not saying Israel's a good guy. I'm just saying it's a complicated world. You got good guys and bad guys all over the place because it's not a comic book. But when you put a pin on your fucking jacket, you want the world to be a comic book, right? Just like that ice shooting. You watch it, right? First of all, it was very funny because the whole world threw a challenge flag onto the field on that one and was like, we got to go to the booth. And then everybody started replaying frame by frame to see if his foot was inbounds, outbounds, was he headed? Was it a touchdown? Was it not? Was she looking at him? Was she not? Was he in front of the car, on the side of the car? Was his foot facing this way? What happened before? I mean, it was a real review. And I have to say, I think the ruling on the field stands. And that ruling is whatever you want it to represent is true. Because when you watch the film, you go, oh, this is a third thing. It's not this, it's not that, right? Because what you want it to believe is fucking ICE and he's a murderer, but that was not first degree murder. And then you find out he got run over a week ago or whatever. So he was bringing his trauma to the situation. Then you find out she was a antagonizing protester and her wife, who was the one, it looked like she was the one who wore the dildo. I was going to say pants, but she was definitely the one that wore the strap on, was kind of telling her what to do and out there, yelling at the ICE, tell them, come get me, big boy, antagonizing them. And then she's also the one that told her to drive and get away. Obviously, she was scared because the other aggressive guy was coming over, get out of the fucking car. And so she got scared and spooked. So she tried to drive off because she's scared of this guy who was too aggressive. And then her fucking wife is going to drive. So it's a split-second thing. This guy happens to be standing in front of the car. He gets scared. He didn't have to pull his fucking gun. This woman should not have been killed. It's a woman in a car posing no threat. He got out of the way, As soon as she backed up, he should have fucking moved because she didn't just go forward. So, she wasn't trying to hit him. She reversed a little bit, turned her wheel. So it was a tragic accident based on historical forces and fucking Franks and Beans people, emotions running high. That's what happened. When they both go up to heaven and God goes, God knows what happened. But the two sides need to, just like a school shooting, they need to make it about a bigger thing. That's what I'm saying. It becomes very complicated when you get into the weeds. So now, the Muslim government, the ruling class in Iran is slaughtering these protesters, right? The Mossad is doing a terrible job because they're getting slaughtered. At this point, there's reports for anywhere from 2,000 to 12,000. The scary shit is it's only been like a couple days. That's the scary shit. They knocked out the internet, so it's gone black. And they're saying more than 2,000 people at this point. An Iranian official told Reuters 2,000 people have been killed. I've saw estimates maybe up to 10, 12. And Iranian official also told Reuters that 2,000 people have been killed, but that terrorists were to blame. Now, so that's an Iranian official. I don't know what that means. Obviously not representing the Ayatollah, so I don't know which Iranian official that is. But this isn't.
That's representing the Ayatollah.
That's the Ayatollah?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
It's not us, it's terrorists who are doing it.
Oh, I get it now. Oh, okay, so an official Iranian official said the terrorists were to blame, not them. So it was just a third group in there of terrorists. He didn't specify. He didn't say Zionists because that would make no sense. So he can't blame the Jews there because the Jews wouldn't want to kill the protesters. And he can't say jihadists because that's essentially what they are. So it's just a general, and this is a direct quote, terrorists. Got it now. So it's not them. So he wants the world to know it was just a general group of terrorists. So they're admitting to 2,000. So that means it's a lot more. We're gonna see some bad numbers here. The protests are widespread. 180 cities and towns in all of the country, all 31 provinces of the country. And some mosques have been burned. And officially, they're angry over the collapse of the Iranian currency and the soaring cost of living. It's just like Manhattan. That's all. That's all they're protesting. That's all That's why they're ripping off their, what is this from, BBC? Yeah. That's why they're ripping off their hijabs and burning pictures and torching shit. It's just like Manhattan. They're like, why is the rent so high? Why is the rent? And the only reason they're taking off their hijabs, Nike, don't worry, is because they're hot. It's very hot this time of year, and they're just hot. And that's why they're ripping off their hijabs. That's why. Because it's a choice. It's a cultural choice. Be sensitive. So Nike, do not worry. But, of course, the currency has plummeted and the cost of living is high. It's worthless. Food is hard to get. The currency has plummeted, losing significant value. This year alone, rates exceed 1.4 million reals to the dollar. I mean, their country's over. It's over. Now, of course, blame the CIA, sanctions, the usual. But I always wondered, if these systems or these leaders were so good, why are they so easily derailed? We have to do business with them? We have to play by their... Why? If you're so powerful, how come you always crumble and we don't? Food and essential goods have seen particularly sharp increases, with some reports citing a 72% rise compared to the previous year in prices. So food is expensive. This is just Manhattan. All they got to do is elect Mamdani, and this will be fixed. That's all. I think my nose gets itchy when I get scared because I get into territory where I'm not 100% sure. I'm not an expert on this. What I do is I use my gut, which is what you have to do. And you always had to do that. It's not just the internet, right? Because two things people don't understand is evil people or powerful people never say what they mean. You have to use your gut. You know? Like I said, Jeffrey Dahmer doesn't go, hey, can I bite your tit off? You have to use your gut to see through the bullshit. And the only thing that does that is street smarts, which is lacking today. People believe whatever's fucking thrown in front of them or what their relatives believe. So it's a complicated thing, and this is very difficult. There's been a lot of critiques from people going, why are you so silent now? You were so vocal for the Gazans. And then a lot of people who were vocal for the Gazans saying things like, I hate Khomeini, but don't let this happen because Israel and U.S. want it. So I think they want the people to continue to suffer because they just don't want. It's like when you break up, when your girl breaks up with you, or you break up with you break up with your girl, but so you don't want her, but you don't want anyone else to have her either because you want her to suffer. So I think a lot of people just don't want the Ayatollah to fall because they don't want Israel to get what it wants. They don't want the United States to get what it wants. And that is because they don't want to be wrong. And that's human nature. That's what Street Smarts tells me. Right? Right? Is that why the Timu John Stewart, what's that Egyptian guy's name? What's the guy's name who's always railing? Bassem Youssef. Probably a very funny guy. You know, the Egyptian comedian, commentator, Palestinian activist, good-looking dude, kind of jacked, handsome guy. Probably related to him. You know, I have family in Alexandria. You know, he also had problems explaining why his country seals off the border so tightly when he was asked once. He makes a lot of good points, don't get me wrong. It's hard not to. When Israel's bombing the shit out of defenseless people, the more you have moral authority, but it's a complicated world over there. You know, the Middle East has been bloody. This is the same old story. These people have always been fighting. And they fight with each other. But he tweeted, if Iran falls from the inside and there's a complete regime change, the Iranian people should expect that Israel, the United States, will bomb the entire infrastructure and military structure, just like Saddam's Iraq, Assad, Syria, and Libya. They are waiting for this moment. Yeah, Russia innocent, Assad innocent, Saddam innocent. I mean, what kind of comic book world this is what happens when these are our new intellectuals, are me. This is a comedian. I'm a comedian. I mean, people got to get their fucking head out of comic books, right? Just like he did this. Oh, Saddam was fucking just a beauty. Assad was just a beauty. And America and Israel came and fucked it up. And boy, be careful, because that's what they're going to do. Like, things were just rosy before the creation of the United States of America and Israel. It was so just. You can't pull this bullshit with me. I'm a Greek from Anatolia. You can't pull this bullshit with me. Your religion enslaved my ancestors. Murdered some of them. You can't pull this bullshit with me. Where you had a ruling class who could just go to a home and pull a kid out of the home and turn him into a janissary and pull another woman out and throw her in the fucking harem for some sultan's delight. You can't pull this bullshit with me. You had a slave trade that lasted 1,400 years and you cut the balls off of black men. You can't pull this bullshit. You can't act innocent. You don't have a moral authority when you quote one side bad, one side good. You're ignoring the back and forth that's been going on. Okay? Just now, right now, all these countries were formed at a time in blood when there wasn't moral police and cameras, but now there's cameras. And it's so easy to do from first class. Just like Saddam Hussein's Iraq. Yeah, the victim, Saddam Hussein, and Assad, Syria. The victim, Assad. Oh my God. And Persian people, Iranian people, you heard them. Stop. Okay? Have you thought about your dictator's weapons and his infrastructure? You don't want those to get bombed. Is anyone thinking about the military infrastructure of the Ayatollah in that regime? Are you people on the streets ripping off your hijabs. Are you thinking about the military infrastructure? You're not. And Bassem Youssef wants you to think about the military infrastructure. And the infrastructure, which they will not do. Because it's not Libya, it's not Iraq, it's not Syria. You want it to be bad. You want it to be so bad. You need it to be. You need it to be so bad. You need those mosques to be burned by a guy with the last name Finkelstein so bad. You need it to be. You need to not mention that Muslims have been burning other Muslims' mosques for a long time. You need to ignore that. You need to ignore that fucking border wall between Gaza and Egypt. You need to ignore that Kuwait kicked out 450 to 500,000 Palestinians from their home. You need to. You need to call Israel an ethno-state. You need to ignore the fact that Turkey is also an ethno-state, and so is every Muslim fucking country in the Middle East. You need to ignore that. How is Turkey not an ethno-state? Dominated by one religion. How not? Where are the 1.5 million Greeks, Armenians and Assyrians and Kurds? Where are they? Do they get equal say? Were they ripped from their homes? Were they forced out of their homes where they lived for sometimes thousands of years? Yes, they were. Guess whose parents? Guess whose grandparents that was, fuckface? It was mine, fuckface. I mean, what are we talking about here? We're acting like this is some new ball game? Oh, no, hands up. It's like the Germans, right? Oh, no, it's nothing. I didn't believe any of that. I didn't believe any of that. I'm just a shopkeeper who happened to be SS God, who, while I was winning, was doing what I did, but now that I'm losing, I have to say I don't believe any of that anymore. It's the oldest thing in the book, man. Power. I wish we were all evolved and cultures were all equal and we just talked about the food and the clothes and the traditions, and we didn't have different laws, and we all respected international law, and we all had individual rights. I wish we could agree on some standard around the world, but until we can, the United Nations is just a wrestler in a WWE wrestling match, right? And law's not enough. Consequences are, unfortunately. Nobody's paying attention to international law, right? Because if they were Bassem Youssef, then 80% of the women from the age of 18 to something would still have their clits in your country. Correct? Are you from Egypt? Is that where they take the clits off? I think it is. Right? I can't wait to hear your monologue on that one. Are they taking the clits off? We can't release this episode. But am I saying anything that's wrong?
No.
Am I right about that? Don't they take the clits off? Female circumcision in Egypt? Yeah. Recently, there's been some human rights trying to... Recently, like now, dog. Like now, not 500 years ago, not 100 years ago. Now, they're trying to make some changes. Now. Right this second. So yes, Israel's been naughty. Yes, very naughty. Benjamin Netanyahu, I think, is a war criminal. Yes, I do believe that. I do believe his strategy not only was stupid, I think it was immoral, and it's horrible what has happened to a lot of innocent people. I also blame Hamas and the people outside the country who fund them. I blame the unfortunate situation of the people fighting over land, but that's no different than what it's been. It's no different. People come in, they take it. Where did these guys come from who rule Iran? Are the Arabs who rule Iran? Are the Muslims are they from Iran? I'm asking questions. The Turks that ruled over Greece and all those areas. Where were they from? Where were those colonizers and conquerors from? Why is it only the 400 years of European colonialism? Why is that the only thing discussed as being good and evil? Why? Is it because everyone hates, is it the same reason why they hate the Patriots? Just because they're winning now? They're the United States is winning now? Is it the Patriots effect? Are we the Yankees? I think so. But at the end of the day, as I know I've done a good job of cutting through a lot of bullshit, I'm a lot more confident now that we're just doing this once a month because I can hide for 3 weeks. I'd like to end this episode by quoting the great John Steinbeck. And if this isn't where we all stand at some point, then this will just continue. And these grifters and content creators and people who really just don't get into the weeds of what's going on and aren't honest about it will continue to flourish. And emotions will run high, and they'll appeal to your need to be on a team and to be right, your negativity bias, and they'll all pretend like they're not checking their like count. John Steinbeck, when he received the Nobel Peace Prize or for literature or whatever, gave a speech. And in that speech, he said a bunch of stuff, and then this is an excerpt from that. And this I would fight for, the freedom of the mind to take any direction it wishes undirected. And this I must fight against, any ideas, religion, or government which limits or destroys the individual. This is what I am and what I am about. How about we give a shout out to our good friends at forthefree.art. They're still here. Check out their website for music, bands, and Hawaii shows coming up. Very cool site to peruse. Let's also give a shout out to our friend Nate Linder. Okay? Digital marketing. IndigoLabsAgency.com. He also has a podcast called Entrepreneurship Unlocked with Nate Linder, where he interviews entrepreneurs from all over the world. People from independent doctors to international touring artists and tech CEOs. So go check out Nate Linder, and he can also help you with your digital marketing to get results. Rebels-Raiders.com. All his gear uses NIR-resistant near-infrared solution dyed materials. Yeah! Which cuts your signature under night vision. As far as he knows, he's the only company publicly posting test data on this. Right now, they got back in stock plate carriers, rapid response medical bags. I'm going to get one of those. I actually am. And 2-point rifle sling. I got a rifle. Maybe I'll get that too. But I am actually going to go to his site and get the rapid response medical bag. Everyone should get that. Have that. You should have that in your house. That's awesome. So he has that right now. Reinforced stitching and lifetime warranty all come standard. You got to love this guy. Hit rebels-raiders.com and grab your kit before it's gone. PCB Tech Art. Very simple, my friends. Very simple. Get their wireless phone charger for your car. Shop PCBTechArt.com, or you can go to Amazon and find them. They've helped over 10,000 customers fix their charging issues. So use the code Yannis15. You get 15% off and fix your wireless charging issues today.